Okay, and Big Jook is the brother of Yo Gotti.
Yes, sir.
Now, what's your relationship with Yo Gotti?
I don't have a relationship with him. I never met him, never did any business with him whatsoever. That's why it was strange to me.
The courtroom door swings open and a man once called the mastermind of a rap icon's killing walks into the sunlight. A jury says not guilty. Phones light up, timelines melt, and suddenly the question isn't just who fired the shots. It's who's really pulling the strings now. Because the moment Hernandez Govan beat the case, the story around young Dolph, CMG, and Memphis didn't end. It twisted, and right in the middle of that twist sits Blac Youngsta, who just scrubbed his page and started calling himself independent. Coincidence? Or the next chapter starting in plain sight? The first sign was quiet. No press release, no statement, just a bio change.
I'm always on edge because there's cases I thought I would have won easily and the jurors just get swayed by the publicity and the media. It's been so one-sided, calling him a mastermind. The press has been going crazy because only the DA talks. And that's the problem with our system, is because they make such a good first impression saying everybody's guilty that it's hard to get a fair trial. But
Blac Youngsta takes CMG out of his profile and labels himself independent. The internet catches it within minutes. Fans throw up receipts, screenshots, old videos, timelines. Some say he does this every so often for attention. Others say this one feels different. The difference isn't just the words, it's the timing. The city is still buzzing from the verdict. The trial dug up years of bad blood, whispered bounties, and phone logs. Then boom, Youngsta wipes the brand that made him a national name. Is it a marketing tease, or a break that was always going to happen once the courtroom dust settled? Within hours of the bio switch, the captions start reading like warning labels. No tags, just a tone that says stand on 10, keep it loyal, cut off the fakes. Fake big homies, fake CEOs.
And Youngsta was initially charged, but then he said that van had been stolen and Keon Wright took the fall. So you mean that the vice president of the same company that Blac Youngsta worked for happened to be the one who stole the van that he rented, and then he happened to use it to shoot up young Dolph's truck?
It isn't a name drop, but in Memphis, names travel without being spoken. Fans stitch the post together with what isn't there. No label shoutouts, no cozy reposts, no CMG crumbs, and decide the message is pointed. Rumors suggest those lines are aimed up the ladder at the executive tier, and the internet runs with it. Part of that is myth-making. Yo Gotti's name carries a neighborhood legend that sounds like mob lore, so any talk of fake bosses feels like a dart to some people. That doesn't prove intent, it just feeds the conversation. And once the comments catch fire, everything becomes a clue. A like here, an unfollow there, an old interview snippet resurfacing at the perfect time. Quiet moves turn into loud interpretations. That's how rap gossip breathes now. One cryptic post, 1,000 storylines. Meanwhile, the city watches with its own code of respect.
Smith. Mr. Smith, you're here on the docket today on a C felony, theft of property over $10,000. And you're asking that we dismiss this charge.
In Memphis, loyalty is currency and captions are contracts. If you hint that the guidance at the top is off, you're not just clowning a person, you're challenging a system. And when systems get questioned, history starts knocking. A year before Govan's verdict, the first domino fell in open court. Justin Johnson, better known as Straight Drop, was found guilty in young Dolph's killing and hit with life. The state leaned hard on Cornelius Smith, who told jurors there was serious money on Dolph's head, and even identified himself and Johnson in the frames everyone had already seen 100 times. On paper, that looked like the spine of the story. Then the spine bent. Months earlier, Big Juke Yo Gotti's brother was killed, taking a key thread off the witness map. In Govan's trial, the defense hammered credibility and connections, pushing doubt on who organized what.
That anyone could be locked up that long and didn't have the resources to defend themselves. The jurors said that. They echoed that, and the guy said, I am offended. I'm offended by this. He said, and he was disappointed in Mulroy.
The jury didn't buy the chain the state was selling. Govan walked. And if you've ever watched a high-profile case in the South, you know a not guilty verdict doesn't make timelines go quiet. It makes them louder. Some called it justice, others called it a miss. Either way, the courtroom didn't close the book. It ripped out a chapter. And when a case this big loses its center of gravity, the pressure doesn't disappear, it relocates. It slides into group chats, executive offices, and yes, those cryptic captions that everyone reads like tea leaves. Which is why the timing around Blac Youngsta's independent switch hit so hard. The legal storm calmed just enough for the industry weather to change. But the fuse wasn't lit last week. It started years back. Depending on who you believe, the spark started with a handshake offer.
Over, and I looked into this beef. I was really trying to figure out the Yo Gotti, Young Dolph beef. Supposedly.
Right.
Some people say it was over a girl. Some people say Gotti wanted to sign Dolph and Dolph didn't want to sign.
Right.
Yo Gotti reaches out early, gives Dolph his flowers, and floats the idea, join CMG. There were cordial moments on stage, even a community show that looked like unity on camera. There were texts, the kind that say I see you, keep going. But the pitch didn't land. Dolph's camp tells it like this. The tone felt patronizing, like other artists were being downplayed to make room for him. For a self-made grinder who prized ownership, that hit a nerve. He walks, no deal. From there, the air got thin. Gotti publicly kept it cool. No real issue, but Dolph leaned harder into independence as identity. Then the chatter that never dies in a small city started swirling.
And let me let y'all in on a secret. Gotti the only I know gave Memphis more shots than any nigga from Memphis, including myself.
Rumors suggest personal life overlap added smoke to business tension. Nothing on paper, just the kind of whispers Memphis trades in barbershops, studios, and late-night parking lots. In a town where everyone shares the same promoters, jewelers, and radio drops, silence becomes a message and no feature reads like a headline. Meanwhile, Blac Youngsta was the loudest amplifier in the room. Young, fearless, and quick to press the gas when pride was questioned. The more Dolph branded himself as unattached, the more Youngsta leaned into loyalty talk and sharp jabs. Lines that might have stayed subliminal in another city felt personal in Memphis, where neighborhoods and legacies sit one exit apart.
A couple days later, this nigga come with a diss on. I'm like, hold on. Oh, this shit true. So that what made me really tee out. He came with the trouble to read I don't know, nigga, read it. Read. Know what I'm talking about? He come with that junk, so he dissed me. So I'm like, damn, at that point, my tape for the drop in like 2 or 3 hours.
Songs turned into statements, statements turned into sides, and sides turned into expectations about who would stand where when the next record dropped. By then, what started as a business decision had morphed into identity politics. Indie crown versus label empire. Hometown love versus industry leverage. Each move, every unfollow, every skipped appearance, every bar that sounded a shade too pointed, stacked up like dominoes. And when dominoes lean long enough, the lightest touch sends them over. And when things jumped from music to metal, it got loud fast. Charlotte 2017. An SUV gets chewed up by what witnesses swear sounded like dozens and dozens of rounds. Windshields spider, parked cars catch strays, shell casings blanket the street, and Dolph walks away. The headline writes itself, 100 shots. Police move fast, Blac Youngsta is arrested, and the city braces. But when the paperwork finally lands, the state's link is a rental car in his name. Not proof he was in it when the trigger got pulled. Years later, the charges vanish. Case dismissed. Dolph turns survival into momentum. He performs, he drops music with titles that feel like battle reports, and he leans into the image of a man you can't rattle. That wasn't just defiance, it was branding. Every new record sounded like a press conference without a podium. Then Hollywood, months later, a scuffle near a hotel valet flips into gunfire. Dolph is hit, rushed into surgery, and still lives. An associate tied to Gotti gets detained and later released. Reports say detectives floated person of interest language in the early chaos, but no charges stick. Another storm, another story that burns hot, then cools with no convictions and 1,000 opinions. By this point, a pattern is setting in. Bullets in broad daylight, viral clips, fast arrests, slow walkbacks. Fans start treating every breadcrumb like proof, every unfollow like a fingerprint. The feud stops being rumor and becomes weather, something everyone has to move through whether they picked a side or not.
Important clues in solving a mystery in Memphis. Who shot and killed young Dolph in his own hometown? This grainy photo released by police shows a person in gray pants and a dark hoodie with gun in hand, apparently firing. Also released a photo of a white car that may be linked to the case.
Every headline becomes a scoreboard, and survival itself feels like a statement. When young Dolph was killed, the grief went global. But in Memphis, it felt like the city lost a pillar. Candlelight vigils, murals blooming overnight, fans lining up at Makeda's with flowers and notes. Everybody had a story about a backpack giveaway, a tip he overpaid, or a studio pep talk that kept a kid out of trouble. In that kind of atmosphere, every move meant something, which is why people were stunned when Blac Youngsta performed Shake Some just weeks later. The clip raced across timelines. Some called it heartless, others said rap never promised to be gentle. The backlash was instant. Comment sections on fire, DJs arguing live on air about whether to spin his records, fans pledging boycotts while others defended the say it with your chest code. Then came I'm Assuming, filmed in a cemetery, framed near a Thornton crypt the surname Dolph carried. To supporters, it was art as provocation. To critics, it was beyond the line. Youngsta didn't fold. He posted about coming from a place where sympathy doesn't exist, doubling down on the image of a rapper who refuses to apologize. That stance kept his core audience locked, but it also hardened the city. For some promoters and collaborators, the calculus changed. Is the heat worth the booking? For fans who grew up on both catalogs, it felt like being forced to choose at a family table. Meanwhile, Paper Route Empire turned mourning into motion, tribute shows, releases, and a rally around the flag energy that only deepened the split. The optics got louder than the music. Who shares a stage with who? Who reposts a flyer? Who stays silent when a jab flies? In a market as tight-knit as Memphis, silence is a louder diss than a bar. By then, forgiveness wasn't just emotional, it was expensive. Rebuilding goodwill would take time, music, and moves that felt bigger than captions.
All the comments and hoorah on social media accusing me of doing things that was absolutely not true because I never had any dealings with Yo Gotti whatsoever, period.
So when Youngsta later started talking loyalty, fake bosses, and then wiped CMG from his bio, it didn't hit like a stunt, it hit like a pivot. Maybe it's distance, maybe it's strategy, maybe it's both. Either way, the city could feel the temperature change. So why would Youngsta go solo now of all times? Label deals are marriage and merger. They're also liability. With testimony still echoing and one alleged organizer walking free, the picture is messy. If you're the loudest voice tied, fairly or not, to the ugliest chapters, you've got two plays. Go quiet and rebuild goodwill, or go solo, own every move and tell the world you answer to no one. Here's why the solo talk hits different now. Independence can be a firewall, fewer corporate ties, fewer meetings where lawyers ask about optics. If a caption blows up, it's your caption, not a label crisis. Promoters do their own math, sponsors do theirs. Everyone decides if the heat is worth the booking. Distance can be strategy. There's also the money. Go indie and you keep a bigger cut of masters, merch, and tour. You control drop cadence. You pick features without clearing politics. If producers or artists choose sides, you pivot to hungry newcomers and build a fresh sound. That can reset the narrative faster than any Notes app apology. But independence cuts both ways. No label muscle means no automatic playlisting, no built-in radio push, and less crisis control when timelines melt. Every rollout lives or dies on story and consistency. If the city's mood stays cold, you have to outwork it, song by song, show by show, handshake by handshake. Fans are split. Some swear it's the usual troll season. He's done profile flips before and circled back. Others feel a real pivot. The captions read heavier, the timing too sharp to be a stunt. Truth is, only the paperwork knows. The rest of us read signals. Who's in the studio? Who's on the flyer? Who stays silent when the hints fly? Rumors suggest the split is permanent. Reports claim the subliminals point straight up the chain. Fans speculate about sealed exits, old debts, and who might talk if pressure returns. That's internet thunder, loud, flashy, and gone by morning.
And there's no conspiracy? That goes to show the power of serious money when you have top lawyers and a guy like Keon Wright willing to take a 10 to 15 year cop. So Blac Youngsta, the artist, stays out of trouble.
What's verifiable is smaller but heavier. Johnson is serving life. Smith put himself and Johnson at the scene in open court and described a bounty. Jamarcus took a plea for helping after the fact, and the man once framed as the connector is acquitted. Those are pins you can't pull back out. Everything else lives in the gray. Those captions, interpretations, unfollows, and wiped bios, signals, not affidavits. Even the fake bosses' talk lands different depending on which neighborhood you ask. Some hear betrayal, some hear branding. And until someone files paperwork, says it on wax, or stands in front of a judge, it's storylines, not statements. Here's the real scoreboard to watch: music, money, motion. If the next drops come through an indie pipeline, if the shows route without CMG gravity, if features tilt toward hungry newcomers instead of legacy ties, that's where the truth leaks. If instead we see quiet dinners, shared stages, or a sudden business alignment, the split might read more like strategy than severance. In Memphis, a repost can mean more than a press release. Meanwhile, the city's patience is thin. A lot of people want clean answers to messy questions. Who gave the orders? Who knew what? Who's protecting who? Fans speculate because official narratives left holes. But speculation isn't evidence, and evidence is the only thing that actually moves a courtroom or a contract. So the line stands, facts are fixed, rumors float. The verdict shuffled the deck, not the truth. The next hand gets revealed in boardrooms, bar counts, and bar lyrics, and in who's willing to stand next to who when the cameras pop. So where does that leave Blac Youngsta and Yo Gotti? It leaves them in a place Memphis knows well: public quiet, private noise. The verdict didn't end the story, it rearranged it. If the rumored split is real, it could either cool down an old war by putting distance between names or pour gas on a rivalry that already took too much. The truth will surface the same way it always does here, through music, money moves, and who stands next to who when the cameras pop. Until then, the only safe bet is this: nothing in this saga stays still for long.